So welcome everybody. I am Beverly Howe and I'm your instructor today. What I thought to make introductions a little bit easier is I've got, looks like somebody else is, Chris, are you going to be on, should I just admit people or are you going to do it? I can't hear you.
I just muted myself so I wouldn't make noise.
I
I'll
can do
try
it.
to
Oh,
keep watching, but yeah, if
okay.
you see that somebody's sitting there, yeah, let them in.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. So what I thought we could do just to, in the interest of time, if everyone could just write in the chat our introduction. So if you could put your name, the market center that you work out of, your years or months licensed, and your years or months with Keller Williams. If you have a prior profession, what that is, and where you are in your business. Like, have you had any transactions close? So you've been, through the process already, and how much you worked in command. And while you're doing that, I'll just tell a little bit about myself. So I'm Beverly Howe. I'm an associate broker with Keller Williams. I've been licensed for 7 years and I've been with Keller Williams the entire time. I am very learning based. I've been teaching with Keller Williams probably about 3 years now. I'm a mentor. Um, I also am heavily involved with our local women's council realtors. I don't know if all of you um, have a network in your area or not, but it's a great way to move up in leadership, get good experience. I started off as treasurer, was membership director, and then president-elect, and I'm president for 2020, and we're doing a redo, so I'll be president for next year as well. And I also just got voted in as director for our local realtor board, GRAR. And I have 3 designations: the Graduate Realtor Institute, senior real estate specialist, and PMN is a women's council designation, performance management network. My background is I did accounting and finance for several different industries, and I've been a landlord, a property manager since 1995. So that's a little bit about me. So stop the share. All right. So we'll go through everybody. So first we've got um, Amanda. Did you share more about yourself?
I did. I accidentally
Okay.
said just my name first. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'm going to scroll down to that. Just
Okay.
great. You're in the Brighton Market Center with me, 3 months licensed. Oh, interesting. A horseback riding instructor. Very cool. Um, no transactions through the process. So you're working with some buyers and sellers
Yeah.
right now. Do you have are your sellers already listed?
No, they're just it's mostly just people who want me to come right now and just like check out I think they just want to like interview me and see what I can do for them.
Okay. And not too much in command, playing around. Okay, great. We'll go to the next person. We have so Lane Volkman joined in November, no transactions,
Yep.
direct sale, and been playing around in command. Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. Candace, also Brighton, 2 months in the business, director of development at Isaiah House. Very nice. No contracts yet. Okay, command for the trainings. All right, great, thank you, welcome. Colleen Canandaigua, no listings or buyers, was in the travel business. Great, well, thank you for being here. Nicole Romano, Syracuse, licenses, no transactions, okay. Lane, Capital District. Scrolling down. Is it I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Is it Kwong?
It's Kuhn.
Kuhn?
Kuhn, yeah.
Okay. And Brighton office, license since October. Credit risk rep at Paychecks. Cool. No contracts, few touches in command. Okay. Oliver. Gateway started 5 weeks ago. Supply chain manager. Great experience. You guys are all a nice variety of experience you guys have. Great to read. Oliver, have you been through any of the transactions? Where's Oliver?
No, I haven't had any transactions yet.
Okay. And Nicole has a background in education, playing around in command. So it seems like everyone's pretty much in the same level so far. Deborah, brand new, Gateway. Follow-up meeting next week. Oh, you don't have business cards yet? So when you say follow-up meeting, oh, and you're Betsy, okay, right.
Yeah.
When you, I gotta put that in here. When you say what follow-up meeting, what do you mean by that?
I'm still doing my onboarding.
Oh, okay, great.
I do have a friend looking for a house in the area, so I will be meeting with a transaction coach next week also.
Okay. Do all of you, since everyone seems pretty new, is everybody working with a mentor?
No,
Like
No?
a launch partner, yes.
A launch partner, yeah.
Yep.
Different.
no.
So Betsy, you're not yet. And you're at the Gateway Market Center. Okay. Kathy is with the Gateway office since in August. So she was a prospector for real estate agents for 10 years, no transactions. And Nicole is in the car. It's okay. It's okay. Productivity coach. Okay, great. So welcome everybody. I feel like everyone's probably pretty close to the same
Starting
spot
them.
into this. Yeah, so that's awesome. All right, so we're gonna get started. So a little background on the teaching. I love this class. I've been teaching the Ignite Contract to Close class more than any other class. And like I said, I've been teaching for, I think, about 3 years. So this is my favorite class. I love it. This is my first time doing it with this new curriculum. So forgive me as if I'm not as fluent as I would have been if we were teaching the other Ignite that we've been doing all along. And of course, being online creates a whole nother element to that. So let me get back to sharing my screen. Let's see. What do you guys see right now? Are you back to my Word still?
Wow, your clients?
No, hold on one sec. Okay. Let's start with. Okay, here we are. Okay, so let's get into it. So I'm going to welcome everybody to the Contract to Close. We've done our introductions. So after this session, you should be able to, where am I? So we're going to, let me backtrack a little bit. So we're going to, first of all, I don't know how you are with needing to take breaks, but I figured probably about every hour we'll just take a 5-minute break if we can get through it like that. So after this session, you should be able to describe the deadlines and the steps that it takes to close the deal from contract to closing. And you'll be able to list strategies and best practices to avoid the risk of the deal not closing. And you learn how to develop your own prospecting plan. Okay, so you've been, and I think I have a question for everybody. So other than Betsy, because she mentioned it when she was talking to Chris, have all of you been taking all the Ignites throughout in order, or where are you in the process? You can just speak if you want. think
I
we're-
started halfway through.
Lane is halfway through. Okay. Candace.
Yep, I took them from the beginning. I've been taking them every day.
Okay. And,
And I've took them through the beginning too, from the beginning.
okay. So
Taken most of them.
okay.
Yeah,
So where we are is we're in the run the business section, and we're going to go about negotiating contracts. We're going to cover transaction management to closing, vendor management, and compliance and risk management. I'm trying to move this over here. I'm trying to figure out where to put where I see you. Okay. So just getting a contract doesn't mean that that your deal is actually going to close. There are several steps in the process where a deal can fall apart, and knowing how to manage the risks will help take the contract to the closing table. So who here has bought or sold a home?
I have.
I have real life.
Yes, in real life.
Oh,
So-
no. Not
yeah,
my
in real
own.
life.
I have a couple of times.
You have, okay, good.
Yep,
So when anyone can like raise their hand and speak, like what did you have to do after you signed the contract as a consumer? Like how were you involved in this? Does anyone want to share their personal experience they can recall?
First thing we had to do was get a lawyer and schedule some inspections.
Mm-hmm.
Get pre-qualified first.
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've talked about this in other classes. You definitely want to get pre-qualified before you even start looking for a house. So we want to get our clients pre-qualified before we even start looking for the house.
Right.
So after the closing, a lot of people do a lot of work to make the closing. Actually, after the contract, a lot of people do a lot of work to make the closing happen. So as a realtor, you and your co-realtor are like conductors, conducting an orchestra of all people and tasks that happen between the contract and closing process. It's likely to also be a time of high stress for a lot of people. And so your relationship and communication with your client is just as important as your relationship with all the parties that that are involved in making the deal close. So, all right. So the agenda for the group for our session, we're going to build a buyer and seller timelines. We're going to talk about best practices for managing the deal. We're going to talk about command. We're going to get into command a little bit for transaction management. And we're going to recap and create your success list. So the first thing I want to do, did you guys print out the little, I don't know if you can see me, the booklet?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to end this. I'm going to stop screen sharing for a minute. Oops. Okay. I'm sorry that this is. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty and I'm trying to figure out why that is. What do you guys see right now?
The build a buyer and seller timeline slide.
Okay.
I think if you want to stop sharing, just kind of hover your cursor.
No, I know what's happening is I have, for some reason, I think it's on my other monitor, which isn't, sorry. I apologize for
Now,
this.
now it says build a buyer timeline.
All right. All right, well, we're just gonna go in this till I figure out why. It's because it's because I have, let me just change my settings. I have it on, my multiple displays. There it goes. Okay. All right, so if we can get on the open source, we're gonna build the timeline. So what I want you to do is if you make a line across, all right, I'm gonna go back to this, let's see. Okay, so the buyer timeline. So you can make a line across horizontally. And if you want, we can start working, and here's some examples of some of the things that are in the timeline. So we're gonna work with these timelines throughout this session. So prepare to be able to visibly draw both the timeline on your paper so we can work on this. What other events do you think that would go in this? This is kind of just a really basic one. Are there any other events that you guys know that you would be putting within here with your experience that you've gone through as far as like going through the purchase contract? I assume, have you guys taken the buyer boot camp, purchase offer boot camp?
No.
Yes.
Some of you have, okay. So maybe the people who have taken it, what are some other events that would be going on in between these, like right after the executing the contract? Do you guys know what the first thing that would be on a timeline?
No, for sure. I don't have my notes from that class, but is it sending it to the attorneys, to the different attorneys?
Yep, getting attorney approval.
With the
What else?
appraisal, would that
Pardon?
be an appraisal, or is that a part of the working with the lender?
Nope, appraisal is good one. Appraisal is going to happen after home inspection. So between home inspection and home insurance.
A final walkthrough,
Great. Where we put final walkthrough?
probably right before close.
Perfect. Yep. I'm gonna show you. So this is a form that I use, and I use this with in my buyer and my seller presentations. So this is a timeline that I have set up. And when I get right together with my buyer presentation, in a buyer presentation, this is one of the documents that I show them. So since you guys are all new, I'm going to start with this, and then we can go to how this class is actually.
Will we have access to this?
I can send this to you guys. If you guys, in the end, if you, just have somebody else coming. Okay. So welcome, Paige.
Hi, good morning, Bob.
So just so you guys know, Paige is actually the person I'm mentoring. Paige is the first time I'm teaching this class. We've already done introductions. I've taught this class many times, but this format is a little different. So I'm kind of stumbling through it. But so this is our buyer timeline. So the first step that I have for my buyers is, choose me as your agent, and we sign all the necessary disclosures, the agency agreement. Now we have the fair housing disclosure, agency disclosure, and all that. the second step is we want them to get financial pre-approval, either show us proof of funds or be pre-qualified from a lender. We get together and we analyze their needs in a buyer consultation. You guys also can see this form, right?
Yes.
This timeline, okay. Receive notifications of matching properties. They select the properties they want to view. We actually tour them. We write an offer and then negotiate terms, and offer is accepted and we're under contract. So this is where this class starts. So we did talk about how the first thing is we want to get attorney approvals. So yes, I don't remember who mentioned it, but the first thing you want to do is send the contract to the attorneys. I also write in at when I'm meeting with my buyers, when I'm at this section. Can you see my mouse when I'm pointing at something?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. What I do when I meet with them is I actually write day one right at this point, and I put in dollar signs whenever in the transaction my clients are going to need to pay money. I write it in so they have that. So at this point, I've got the good faith deposit, and I tell them it's usually anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000. So again, one of our steps on our timeline is to make sure that the good faith deposit is sent in, for working with buyers in this case, is sent into the listing brokerage. So that's one of the steps that's also in there. So we've got good faith deposit, and we've talked about attorney approval. And I put in for attorney approvals by day 2 or 3. And these are all dates that are in the contract. So then the next step is inspections. So, and also apply for the, actually, go back one, you want them to apply for the mortgage. I actually have that a little bit after that, or right after inspections, but it kind of happens at the same time. You want your buyer to actually apply for the mortgage. And if they're contingent on inspections, we're going to have inspections. Inspections is usually done between day 7 and 10. And then we want them to apply for the mortgage. And the reason I have it after inspections is when they apply for the mortgage, they likely are going to have to pay an application fee, which is really the appraisal fee. And we don't want them to pay for that until we've made it through the inspection process. And if you're from, I don't know if you guys are from, if you've gone through the purchase offer boot camp, you'd know that. So a typical way we write a purchase offer is that we've got the inspection has to happen within 7 days. And then they have 3 days for the buyer to respond to the inspection, to say either, okay, it's exactly how we wanted it, or I didn't realize that the, heat exchanger in the furnace isn't working. We want them to fix it, or if they wanted credit for for the heat exchanger or whatever. So there's 4 ways at an inspection how you can respond. Either everything's okay, we want a credit, you want them to fix, the seller to fix something, or you're like, never mind, I don't want to buy I don't want to buy the house. So they have 3 days to respond, and then together they have a meeting of the minds, 3 more days for everybody to come to an agreement on how the inspection is going to go. So then the next step is the mortgage. So then they apply for the mortgage, pay for the appraisal, get their rate lock and all that. Then the appraisal happens. So so that would be the next step, is the appraisal happens. And then what do I have after appraisal? So once you get the appraisal back, you want to make sure, like, what we're looking for is that the appraisal is, it's appraising to value that the house is that the purchase offers for, and that there's no conditions on the appraisal. We're seeing more and more that, you know, even if you made it through inspections and, you know, any repairs were taken care of, that all of a sudden the appraiser might be asking for some kind of repair to be done. Unfortunately, seems like they're turning into inspectors. And once also during that time, the lender is doing all the, you know, a lot of underwriting and making sure that the person is actually applied. And then the next
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Regarding if the appraiser is asking for something to be fixed, like I'm just thinking about where I am in real time right now. We've already given inspection satisfaction. You know, I've sent the addendum. We've agreed to inspections and, remove that contingency rather.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when the appraiser says this needs to be fixed?
Pretty much the seller is going to do it. Some things that I've had from the appraisal is there were three things. One was I had I'm trying to think if the people, I think they had a full inspection. So they had a full inspection. It was a farmhouse, and the access to the attic, which was really a crawl space, the sellers had built the access to the attic was in the wall. Like they had a vaulted room. So to get into the attic space, it was actually on the wall, and they had built a closet in front of that space. So I guess the inspector might have gone up in there and everything was fine and looked to make sure there was no mold or anything. Well, then the appraiser came out and he couldn't get up there. So he had a problem with the fact that he needed to have a visual of the inside of the attic. So it was kind of funny because my seller was out of town, so they couldn't do anything. And I'm trying to avoid them to having to do all this work. So there still was a crawl space, but you had to crawl through, like over the closet to get into the main part of the attic. And I actually shoved my 9-year-old daughter up in there to take pictures and to see if that would suffice. But then the appraiser is like, no, I need to see it. So we ended up having to cut a hole into the ceiling of the closet that covered it up. That was one instance that I had. Another one was the buyers were okay with a furnace that was there's a couple issues with this one. This was like a chalet style. It had started off being a hunting. This was out in the country, so maybe it's happening more out there. But the upstairs, it was a small space, and the heating, it didn't have heat ducts in the bedrooms upstairs. It was kind of more like loft space, but the appraiser, it didn't come out on the inspection, or the people, you know, with the inspection, it's really up to the buyers if they care or not. And they didn't care, but then the appraiser came in and said, oh, well, this does have to be fixed. So those are some of the examples. So just because you made it through an inspection or somebody waived the inspection doesn't necessarily make it free and clear for not to happen on the appraisal.
And so what happens if the seller says, I'm not fixing it?
It could be, you may be able to get people to agree that if the buyer was willing to pay for it, that the buyer put money in escrow and it got fixed after closing. But it usually is, you got to get someone that the seller is going to have to, they're going to have to renegotiate. You know, for the most part, when you're at that point, the seller's not going to want to back out of the deal. But it's another point of negotiation. And, you know, could I, like, now I know, like, as far as the attic, getting access to the attic, I didn't foresee that to happen. It wasn't even on my radar. And, but now I know going forward, you know, a lot of this business is, you know, you'll come across something that you've never been, you know, come across for even, you know, 10 years in the business. So every situation's different. So it could anything could happen with that. It could be a renegotiation point. And we're going to talk more about that as we go along. I want to backtrack a little bit. So for inspections, I also give them the dollar amount. I usually say between $350 and $850 are what inspections cost, and because the buyer does have to pay that at the time of inspections. And the variance in price could be, if they just get a home inspection, it might be $350 to $400. If they choose to do radon, that adds like another $150. If they're going to do a chimney inspection, that could be another $175. If there was a pool and they want it, you know, and they wanted to have that inspected. So
And that's rolled into the closing costs, right? All
no,
that?
they pay that at the time.
Oh.
So that's why I go through here and say, you know, at contract acceptance, you're going to have to pay your good faith deposit. And at inspections, you're going to have to pay for the inspections right at that moment, at that time. Mortgage application, I put around $400. When you apply for the mortgage, you're actually paying for the appraisal. Not all banks require it, but when the reason they do require it is if the contract did fall through and the bank appraisal already happened, you know, the appraiser company has to get paid. So they do try to collect that up front as well. So then we get to, this is if they were contingent on the sale of their house. We're not seeing that very much at all in this market because, you know, there's so many buyers for every listing that's out there that making, it's really tough to have your offer accepted if you have to sell a house first. And then mortgage commitment, we usually write for 30 days. So for day 30. So in a real basic contract process, going from contract to close is 60 days. And that's usually how a buyer's agent will write the offer. The reason they might make it not 60 days is like, for example, when I am writing an offer for my buyers, you know, I want to make it as attractive to the seller. So I usually, before I send it over, I ask the seller, I said, well, what timeline is your seller on? Are they needing to get out in 45 days? Or is 60 days fine? And if they're fine with 60 and it works for my client 60, then we write it for 60. You could make it 40. Sometimes you can pull it into 45 days if they're getting a mortgage. If they're paying cash, you should be able to do it in 30 days. I will say right now, all of my deals have been gone over 60 days. And the reason that is because the surveyors are backed up right now. So I just had a survey on a house that it should have been, they're like, I met the surveyors at the property at my listing, and they said they're a month behind. So that house was supposed to close on, I think, November 14th or something. And so now we're 2 weeks out, and we still haven't gotten clear to close because the survey just came back after Thanksgiving. And the survey just happened right before, the survey actually occurred 2 weeks after we were supposed to close. So I think they're not even closing in 60 days right now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But 60 days is the typical way we write the contract. And that would mean we'd put mortgage commitment at day 30. So for mortgage commitment, I put day 30. And then I backtrack and put closing is day 60. And that's when they have to bring the big check. And then the pre-closing inspection, which we had already talked about, is I put between day 58 and 59. And then I put that we want to get clear to close. Ideally, it would be like at day 50, but if it came at day 55, that's okay too. So this is what I use with my buyers, and then I have a seller one, which is pretty much the same thing. It's just a little bit different. So
If that could get emailed, I think it's a great tool. That would be awesome.
okay,
If you're allowed.
yeah. And of course, I know is everybody from the Rochester area except for we have one person from Syracuse, is that, or do we have a couple people?
I'm
I'm
from
the-
Greater Binghamton.
Oh, Binghamton. Who
Albany.
said that?
Amy O'Brien is from Greater Binghamton.
And
Okay.
Lane is from Capital District, Albany area.
So I'm assuming that your process is somewhat similar to this. And then just to continue on through this, I kind of want to set the thought in their head early on. After closing, I have moving day, enjoy your new home, write testimonials and reviews for me, stay in contact, and send me your referrals. So, you know, I talk about it right there at my initial appointment with my buyers and sellers in that, just to prepare them going forward. So I know it's hard we can't look at two things at the same time. On the overhead, they had home insurance as one of the steps. So that's here when your clients get mortgage commitment, they're going to get a letter that says, congratulations, your mortgage application has been approved with these conditions. And there's usually a list of conditions that they still need. And one of them is always securing home insurance. So then at that time, I put $700 in here. It's usually between $600 and $700 that they also have to pay at that time, the first years of homeowners insurance. So the points where they have to pay something is their good faith deposit at contract acceptance. If they are making it contingent on inspections, they'll pay for any inspections. Their mortgage application, which is basically the bank appraisal fee.
And how much is a mortgage application or appraisal fee usually?
In Rochester, it's around $400.
Okay.
It could be
It's
450.
400 here as well.
Okay. And then at mortgage commitment, that's when they're going to have to pay for the first year's homeowners insurance. That's around, I say $700. It could be $600. And then at closing, that's when they bring their down payment and closing costs, certified check. So that's kind of just going through this. So I had written, so on the timeline that for this class, how they have it here, execute the contract, good faith deposit, attorney approval, apply for mortgage, and that's with working with the lender. The inspection appointment, the inspection has to happen. So even the inspection itself has this is the slow way of doing it, and if you put in all the tasks, it's like a lot bigger. And I'll show you that on my where this leads. How this class is going is this: we build the timeline, and then we create our tasks, our checklists for what we need to do, and then we put them in command. I guess now would be a time that I could show you. I'm just going to jump to my checklists that I have created. And these were created over time. A lot of times I want to always be telling my clients what's going to happen so they don't have to ask me any questions. So whenever I get a question or whenever I encounter a hiccup, that's when I'm adding something to my checklist. Let's see. So these are the checklists that I've accumulated. So I prepare, once we go under contract, I prepare a folder and everything and make sure I have all my paper, every document together. I'm still a partial paper and partial, and I'm not completely paperless yet. So I have, the contract is sent to both attorneys and I copy in the co-op agent. And I send the contract to the bank and I copy in the client. And then I send a congratulations on your first steps milestone. I basically have an email that I send them just saying, congratulations, your offer's been accepted. Here's the next steps. And then I send a thank you note to the co-op agent. I make sure, you might have one task. Originally, I had one task that said, okay, deposit check. And it wasn't until I had a transaction where, I got a copy of the deposit check, yet for some reason, my client must have missed the instructions that he was actually supposed to send it to the listing brokerage. And we didn't find out till we're trying to get clear to close. So now I make sure it becomes a two-step. I know that the deposit check was sent and that the deposit check was actually received. Because sometimes they'll mail it and things like that. Same thing with the inspection. That became, at one time, I started my checklist with, we just have the inspection. It was a one-step process, but it's not a one-step process. So now I have that the inspection is scheduled and I keep track of the date and time. And then down here, the inspection was done. The inspection report was received. We replied to the inspection, and then the inspection was moved, meaning that everyone came to a meeting of the minds, and the inspection release was sent to both attorneys and the co-op agent. So where it's kind of like one event, I have it broken up to make sure that everything happens along the way. Going back up to, so we had sent the contract to the attorneys. So now we want to make sure that we received the buyer attorney approval and the seller attorney approval. And then that's one that becomes a communication point for me to talk to be in contact with my clients and say, hey, great, we've, this next milestone is the attorney approval milestone that we've.
And what are they approving there? What is the buyer and seller attorney approving?
So in our area, in New York State is an attorney state. So attorneys actually are ones that are closing or they handle the closings for real estate. In other companies, they're title companies actually handle the closings. Am I frozen to anybody? Because I just got a internet connection unstable. Everything good?
No, you're not frozen.
Okay. So in the contract, one of the contingencies is that it's I'm trying to think how it's worded. It's subject to attorney approval. So one of the contingencies is that it has to be approved, and that's usually within 3 calendar days. So when you send when you've had an accepted contract, you send it to both attorneys, and then you need to get the contract back. Who would
Okay, so it's the contracts, okay.
Yeah, who would ask that question?
Lane.
Lane, okay, and you're in Albany.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys do it the same way as we do. Have you looked through your contract that you use?
Not in depth, no. Not in
Okay.
depth, no.
So how ours is it's a contingency that that has to be met. And actually, when we're going to talk about the spots where a contract could fall apart, that's one of the ones that it could fall apart at that. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit. So then for me, I feel like I'm jumping around with, like, we talk about this other part of the class. So one of the important things that with this whole coordination that you have is making sure that you stay in touch with your clients, making sure that you stay in touch with the other agent in the process, and the communication with the attorneys and everybody in the whole process, all the players in getting it from contract to close. And so that's why I have in my step, like these right in my checklist, my communication points that I have. And one of the things that I do is I normally, this class, like this is, I told you I've taught this class a lot and it's all in a different order. But so one thing I do for my clients is I want to always love on them and touch them to create a good relationship. So just this line here, prep inspection gift. When I go to my clients' inspections, I just have this cute, it's very a tiny little thing that I give them. I bring them like just a little notebook. I have a branded pen and just this little measuring tape because when we go to inspections, that's usually the time that, we're there for an hour, or two, up to 2.5 hours sometimes. And it's a great time for them to take measurements and take notes of what they're learning at the inspection. So that's just one of the things, one of the touches that I do throughout the contract to touch on my clients. So I don't know if we want to go through each of all these, but these are the different steps that I've created to make sure that I stay on track for all my throughout the contract to close process. Do you like going through this, or is this helpful? Yeah, I got a thumbs up.
Helpful for me.
I like
Okay.
going through it.
All right. I feel like everything's out of order a little bit with how the class was going, but we'll just go through this because I think it can be valuable. So then I send, once we had talked earlier about how there's the different ways that from the inspection that the results, everything's fine with the inspection. You can ask for repairs, ask for a credit, or say, you know what, this is, again, it's a contingency. So this is a time where you could say, wow, I didn't know that the back wall was caving in, so I want to cancel the contract. So assuming that doesn't happen, when everybody's had a meeting of the minds, then you remove the inspection contingency. And then this I just have noted in here, that's when I turn off their multiple listing search at that time. I leave it open prior to that just because they could, there's different points between the contract to close process that the deal could end. This is if they had a city grant. So then once we pass that, that's another milestone, is getting past the inspection. Now in this market, I don't know about, Albany or Binghamton or Syracuse, but we're seeing a lot of people waiving inspection right now just because they're trying to make their deal, when you're up against 10 other offers, you want to make it as clean as possible. One important thing with building relationships with your lenders, your vendors, any vendors that you're recommending and the co-op agent. But I've made great relationships with certain home inspectors that will do a pre-inspection for like a half-hour inspection. We call it the pre-offered inspection. If my clients really like the property but aren't comfortable waiving inspection, they'll come in, I could just set up another appointment to show it, and with permission of the seller's agent,
Contract.
we can get in,
She's a terrible.
we can get into,
Hello.
did someone have a question? We can get in early and they can do like a mini inspection that just hits the top points, like the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, the structural, and then so my clients can actually feel comfortable waiving inspection. And I've got a guy who's doing it, like charging like $120 to do a quick mini pre-offer inspection.
I
Nice.
have a quick question.
Yep.
You said you had to ask the seller, do you ask the seller for a second showing, or you ask them to bring a pre-inspection person through?
So the buyer pays for the inspector.
Uh-huh.
So I set up a second showing, but I do ask their permission because, you know, the inspector might be popping his head up into the, it's a little, that appointment is going to be a little more invasive than if
Right,
it was just a regular showing. So I do ask their permission.
to bring a do like a pre-inspection.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And for the most part, I think once I had someone tell me no, but usually they don't care because the seller is going to love to get more offers that waive inspection. So it helps. It makes it better for the seller also. So then the next part is confirm that the client did apply for mortgage. And then I update command, you know, getting the client record in command, and I submit documents. That's making sure that all the documents, that the lender has all the documents. I make sure that the appraisal is scheduled, and that I need to be communicating with the listing agent, because listing agent is the one who gets called, or the lender. I'll make sure the lender has actually ordered the appraisal, and I want to know that it actually got scheduled. Make sure the appraisal happened, and again, this is just if somebody was getting a city grant, so I won't talk about that. And then what I want to know that the appraisal report was received and that it was cleared for value and no repairs. And then again, that's another milestone. So I send it, I've got an email and I call them saying, congratulations, we've crossed the milestone of appraisal, and we go from there. And then the next part is finance. Now I had these in a particular order as I was doing them. Since command started out, these are actually the stages in command that I've aligned this with. And you're going to see where this all flows into command shortly. So then in the finance section, I want to make sure that we've received mortgage commitment, and that's after appraisal received. What's happening in our area. So first of all, in the contract, mortgage commitment is a section in the contract with a date of when that mortgage commitment is due. So that is a timeline in the contract. And as I mentioned on the timeline, we typically write it for 30 days, unless we were pulling in to a 45-day close. We typically do it for 30 days. Now, it also says in our contract in Rochester that a mortgage commitment is not a commitment if it's still pending appraisal. So we have a lot of lenders in our area that are giving mortgage commitment before the appraisal has actually occurred. And because I think appraisers are also late in right now, they're kind of backed up a little bit, but it's not a true commitment until the appraisal is actually complete. So you kind of have to coordinate that.
How often, because, hold on a second, because buyers, their mortgage company is usually separate than their bank, right? More times than not, or is it, am I not, Do the mortgage, for the mortgage commitment and the bank appraisal, do they work together? Are they
Yeah.
connected?
Yes, it's the mortgage, it's the lender that is, the lender, when I use, I'm kind of using them synonymously. So the mortgage lender is the one who is ordering the bank, ordering the appraisal.
Okay.
Because they're working for the bank. They're working for the lend. I'm going to use, I use bank and lender is the same.
Okay.
Because often,
Often they are the same, right?
yeah, and where they do their banking, that's irrelevant. But this is the person who's giving them the mortgage. So they're the ones that are hiring the appraiser because the appraiser, they want to make sure that they're lending on a house that's actually worth what the money they're putting up for it. They're lending on. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so then once we get mortgage commitment, that's another milestone. So I have these in bold just so we know what the big milestones that we want to pass are. So then again, because because the offer is contingent on a mortgage, then there's a document that we have to have signed where the buyer releases the mortgage commitment contingency. So I have that there. And then once that's been signed, they send it to both, I send it to both the attorneys and the co-op agent. And then I kind of work, the lender will usually be working with the buyer to help them get through the conditions of their commitment, one of which being homeowners insurance. But there's a list of other things that usually come up on that. But I also stay on top of that as well. And then every week, if this is where we get into the point where things quiet down a little bit on there's like a lull in the contract to close process. So I just make sure I do a weekly phone call or email to the lender, the attorney, and the client, just to make sure that everything's moving along and that if they have any questions that can help them with. We want to make sure that like I had mentioned before, the first year of homeowners insurance has been paid. If they were contingent on the sale of their house, we want to make sure that the buyer of their house has removed their mortgage commitment. These are really just, these two last ones are if they were contingent on the sale of their house. Then when we get down to what we want to hear is that the lender says that they've been cleared to close. I'm in a deal right now that I am asking Dale. This is the one where I said the survey just happened right before Thanksgiving, and that was actually 2 weeks after our close date because our surveyors are way behind here in Rochester. And so every day I am just calling to find out when we're getting cleared to close, partly because I staged the property and I need to clear out the house, and I haven't been wanting to move all the furniture out until I know that this is actually going to happen. So we want to get cleared to close. I give all my clients a closing gift, and I also attend my clients' closings. During COVID, I hadn't been able to. Now, certain areas of Rochester are in the orange zone, and I think my attorneys, one attorney that I use is going to be in the orange zone, so I may not be able to attend my buyer's I go to my buyer's closings. I don't go to my seller because sellers are just going in and signing documents. But the buyer closing is kind of a bigger process because they're usually getting a mortgage and all that. But I do attend when I can because I've been holding their hand the whole way. I want to see it through to the end. Also, on a personal note, when I bought my first house, I was single. I had no one, my father had passed away. My mother didn't wasn't in the area, and I felt really alone, and my agent was on vacation, and so it was kind of a scary thing. Like, here's this person you've been working with, you know, for 2 months or longer than 2 months. Have you been seeing how, you know, showing houses for a month prior or so, or 2 months prior? I know how I felt going to closing, and I was nervous as a younger person. And so I make sure, especially if it's a first time home buyers, I love to go to my closings, but it's a business decision. Not everybody does. So I make sure, so I have it on here that I buy the gift, and I send their clear to close milestone. And then we make sure the closing date is scheduled. We do their final walkthrough and make sure we've scheduled the final walkthrough. Then we actually do it at that time. We take the utility reads. In my clear to close milestone, I include in that they need to, you know, change their make sure they get the utilities set up and everything in their name and all that. And for my 24th walkthrough, I take a picture of them in front of their house. I bought, you know, sign riders. Some say, one says home sweet home, the other one says I love my new home. And we take we get the utility reads.
What is exactly utility reads? What do you mean, switching over the utilities?
Yeah, like when we're at the final walkthrough, we go and look at the gas and electric. We take of the meter reads. So when they can call in the reads to make sure
got it. Okay.
that it's the right amount. So it's a very like that. This is a lot more detailed than that other timeline that I showed you, obviously. So this is what translates into the steps for into command.
And you just created this yourself based on, you know, just with your experience? I mean, it's really, really well organized.
Yes. And it was you know, I've been doing this for 7 years, and it's been, it was way shorter. You know, in the beginning, it was as short as the timeline that I had shown prior. And then as I go through it, and and kind of with command, you know, I added more tasks because of command, just to make sure that I'm hitting every point. And being, you know, having a checklist that's very detailed is going to really help to make sure everything moves smoothly through the transaction. Let's see. I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint and see where we are.
There's a lot of steps.
Yeah. Are you seeing the PowerPoint right now? What does this look like?
Yeah, it says activity, plot, communication points.
Okay, are you seeing it as a PowerPoint, or are you seeing things on the left?
Oh, I'm seeing the things on the left.
Okay.
I mean, they don't bother me.
Okay, so now you see the build the buyer timeline, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so then this is the seller timeline. I have another one just as lengthy. It's very similar to that, just from the seller perspective. so in here, the class is just asking you to, to draw a timeline like this and add in any other milestones between the contract to close process being executed that you remember or know of. So on the seller side, I have, again, it's offer accepted, attorney approval, knowing that the good faith deposit got sent. Mortgage, it's pretty much a lot of the same thing. So just on the other side. Okay, so this is so again, I know we've had a few people join. So I know most of you had not been involved in a closing of a real estate contract since being licensed. Is anyone else who joined us later? Have you been in the middle of a contract to know some of the other, been through the process before? Anyone?
Nope.
Okay. So one of them.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. I'm currently in 3 pending deals.
Oh, great. So how do you, are you in Rochester? Where are you in?
I'm in Rochester. I'm on the Gateway team.
Okay. So what, are there any other
Courtney
steps?
Dudek's team.
Pardon?
No, I was saying I was on Courtney Dudek's team in the Gateway office.
Okay. So any other steps that you follow between the contract to close process?
Yeah, like right now I have I gotta leave shortly because I have a final walkthrough, and she actually created a walk or a checklist for us to do.
Oh, yeah.
To go over those items that you have mentioned, like the meter reads and like making sure everything's working condition and room clean condition, and then have the buyer sign off on that.
Yeah.
So this is actually my very first deal, but so I'm still kind of learning, and this was very helpful.
Okay, good. So that document, it could be one that we have that we use available to everyone. I added to that one because I do take a picture, and we can talk about this later, but I do take a picture of the rider of my clients in front of their house. And I added to that document to get their permission that I can use it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I use that in some of my other touches that I move on, but I certainly, use it, I might post it on Instagram, Facebook, tag them into it. And then there's something I'll talk about later that I use that picture for. So yeah, so that's another form that we have that we're available to use. So in this, the next thing that I'm to talk about is with the communication points. I kind of went over that when I went through that timeline, that so one of the many ways that we provide value to our clients is to make sure that it happens seamlessly. And our relationships are essential for getting that to a close deal. So it's important to know who to contact and when you need to make sure that everyone and all the people involved getting it closed has the information that they need to move forward. So you can see in that checklist where I'm making communication with my clients, with the lender, with the attorneys, the other agent, and all that throughout it. I pretty much covered everything they're saying already. I pretty much went over all the documents that we talked about. So I think I'm going to move on to the next one, which is, so this is the best practices in risk avoidance. So we're supposed to mastermind how to keep the deal together. So we want to go to page 5 in our little handout. And there's some questions. from what you, if Ramella is still on, because she's in the middle of this, but she could maybe offer, maybe you could offer some
Clear.
in the middle of it, but let's just go through the questions that are here. So where in the deal do you think we're at risk for things falling apart from what I've shared with you so far? Or Ramella, from your experience?
Oh, I've experienced it. So the inspection, so like I had one property where there was a lot of items on there that needed to get addressed. There was a lot of red light items. And the seller didn't want to take care of all of those things prior to closing. So they kind of cherry picked a few items that they agreed on addressing, and then the rest we had to either like do it ourselves or just walk away from the deal. And I had to convince my buyer, like, hey, this is a great deal, even though there's some things, that might not be up to par for you in the moment, but don't walk away from it, only because I showed them over 73 houses. And I didn't want to restart that entire process.
How many offers had you written for them? Was this the first offer?
I wrote 6 for him, and the 7th one we actually got accepted. There was one in between that got accepted, but within hours later, the agent told me, like, she said that, we're accepting your offer. I'm just waiting for the seller to sign. And I think around dinner time, because he was supposed to sign and get the form signed by us, by noon, by dinner time, he changed his mind, and we lost out on that.
The seller changed his mind.
He changed his mind and found another buyer.
Yeah, he got another offer in the meantime. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That really sucked. But yeah, so just going back to that, that was one scenario. Another one, which was my very first deal, we put an offer in September. Here we are, December, and we've been waiting. We've been chasing down a close date, and this is a cash buyer, because we found out that the sellers had a lot of their title wasn't clean, and they had a lot of judgments against them. And I guess their sellers, they're divorced or in the middle of going through one, so it was like pulling teeth trying to get the other party to sign a document, and we had to force their hand and say, hey, listen, our lawyers are going to put a closing date for next actually the 7th, and if your seller doesn't show up, the deal's over. So
time of the essence.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah. So now I have my walkthrough scheduled for today. So praying everything goes well. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
I had some moments.
Yeah. So does anyone want to, so, we talked about, Ramella shared several times. So first of all, during negotiation is when it could be at risk for falling apart. You've got, even if she had her contract signed and accepted, it's contingent on attorney approval. And it could happen where a seller gets in another offer comes in, and they decide to have their attorney not approve it. Or the buyer could get cold feet and have their attorney not approve it. So the deal could fall apart during negotiation, and or attorney approval. And then Ramella talked about at inspection, the deal could fall apart. It could fall apart at appraisal. Anyone else want to guess other times that we've talked about through already going through the checklist that it could fall apart? Actually, Ramella mentioned getting cleared title. Getting mortgage commitment. And then I also wrote down at final underwriting, and then again at the final walkthrough. I don't think I've had one end at final walkthrough, but I've heard of that. I had a deal fall apart just recently, and the situation was, and this again, everything's going to be a learning experience. I I have listed, it's still on the market now. It's a 2-family in the city and it's in a R1 district. So it's a legal double, but it's in a R1 zoning, which is basically residential 1 family. And I own two properties like that, two duplexes in R1 districts, and have never had a problem getting a mortgage, refinancing, anything like that. Well, buyer, his lender that he used has an issue with the fact that it's, so I guess the way the city ordinance is if it was damaged, like say by a fire for more than 75%, it in the ordinance, it can't be rebuilt because it was originally a single family. It could not be rebuilt as a double. So because that came through during, that was on the, that came out, I guess, during either the appraisal or with title, they wouldn't lend on it. So I'm now working for the, I'm not the buyer's agent, I'm the listing agent. And so I called up my lender. I'm like, hey, would you still lend on that? He's like, sure. So I was trying to get the buyer's agent to have his buyer switch lenders and use Lions National Bank, who I had talked to, and they're like, we don't care. But the buyer chose not to do that. So I'm actually in the middle of this. I changed it back to active. And this was supposed to close on October 31st. And I didn't find this out until like beginning of November that this was happening. So you could go all the way through the deal and something could fall apart. So now I'm going to be I'm going to add on my checklist that I check the zoning. If it's a multifamily house, I check the zoning and make sure that if I do list it, that any buyer is going to be with a bank that's, going to be okay with that. I actually called the city and they said that if that happened, they have a process, which is just to apply for a continuance of non-conformance, but this lender wouldn't do it. Paige, I saw you unmuted.
Sorry, what did you say, Beth?
Oh, I saw that you unmuted, so I didn't know if you wanted to share anything.
Well, my first deal that I thought was gonna go through.
Yeah, you can share that.
So yeah, I got these buyers through referral. They live in New Jersey. Everything was fast moving. We found a house that they loved, like literally the day after I talked to them. I virtually showed it to them. And they still loved it, and they were so eager to put an offer in, and then they came up that weekend and we saw it in person. And then within literally me getting the attorney's approval and the contract being good, my buyers decided to pull out of the contract. And it was for personal and family reasons, but it kind of was all fast moving where I didn't know how, essentially it was out of my control because I guess they didn't see it in person. So maybe that was where I faulted, or I don't know, but that's where my deal fell apart.
So just so you know, it wasn't your fault because during COVID, we did have to have,
Sure.
In the very beginning, we weren't showing properties. And then in 2016, I had a seller, or I helped him sell his house. He moved to Texas and then he wanted to move back, and he was supposed to, so we did it all virtually even back then. And he was supposed to come up for the inspection and couldn't. So he didn't see the house until the final walkthrough.
Oh,
and it is a little nerve wracking, so it is a little, because you're like, oh my God, I hope they like the house.
Right.
Now, I just had one close a couple weeks ago with people in Arizona, and I might have mentioned it to you, Paige, but it's a friend of mine, and they never saw it, and they did not even come for the final walkthrough.
Yeah.
So they still haven't seen it because they can't fly here.
Right.
And so it is nerve wracking, and I'm praying to God that they're going to love the house when they finally see it.
Right. I guess it varies from situation to situation and how committed the buyer is.
Right. All right, so I'm going to get through these, and then we'll get through the rest of these, and then we'll take a break. So the next one is, so what are best practices to keep the deal alive? Does anyone want to offer some thoughts on that?
Communication, communication, communication.
Yes. Definitely. Who shared that? Who said that?
That was Amy O'Brien.
Amy, thank you. Yes. I wrote down stay on top of the progress. Like I think this week I literally have been emailing for my one that just had the survey done. I emailed the lender, and I'm the listing agent, and I'm emailing the lender, the buyer's attorney, and because one thing that I want to point out, and I think we talk about this later, that it's important to, if the other agent isn't doing what you think they should be doing, if it doesn't, it seems like they're not pulling their weight. You could either be part of the problem or part of the solution. And I'm definitely one that believes in relationships matter. And so you're not going to, complaining about the other agent isn't going to help you get further. But if you take leadership of the whole transaction, that's going to help you in the end. So taking ownership and management of the whole thing is going to help. So I'm not even hearing much from the other agent, but I am reaching out to their lender saying, when are we getting clear to close? Reaching out to their attorney saying, have you received the survey? Have you reviewed the survey? Have you reviewed the title and all this stuff, just to make sure I stay on top of it. So I know that I'm working for my client. And for the whole transaction to happen. I added, prepare clients of possible issues ahead of time. Every time, here's an example from the inspection. If I have the buyer, there used to be thought that, let's say, if someone got a radon test, or if there was mold in the attic, a lot of times people came from the thought that, well, if there's radon, if we discover there's radon, they're going to have to disclose it. So the seller has to fix it. Or if there's mold, you're going to have to, if we want them to fix it, they have to fix it. All those points that we talked about where the deal could fall apart, it's all renegotiation. And especially in a seller's market, you're not always in the driver's seat. So if you're the buyer, and an example with radon is, I had a seller who accepted an offer, and then after we had accepted it verbally, and then we got another offer from another agent that was 10,000 more and was cash. I think they were both cash, but it was for 10,000 more. And my client could have very well have said, you know what, even though I said I'd take their offer, I want to get that 10,000 more. But he's like, you know what, I'm a man of my word. So we continued with it. But we still had that other one in our back pocket, in a way, so to say. So when it got to inspection, it turned out that that radon was high. And so they asked for a credit of $2,500. And radon mitigation, we had gotten quotes, and it was really only $1,200. And so what we decided, the attorney was involved in this. We decided that we were not gonna get it fixed. We figured, they're paying 10,000 less than this other offer. So when they asked for it, we replied no, that we were not gonna. They wanted us to fix my sellers to fix the remediate the radon. We said no. And the other agent said to me, well, you're going to have to disclose it and they're going to walk. And I was like, you know, that's their choice. We've decided not to fix it. And I think he was very confident that we would have to. We chose not to. They walked, and we were able to accept this other offer for 10,000 more. I called the other client, the other agent, and said, with the 10,000 more contract, I said, just so you know, we had an inspection. There's radon. We'll remediate it. Would your people still want to buy it for that price? And they said yes. So we ended up paying $1,200 to remediate, and my client got 10,000 more. So then I was in a position where I had a buyer who wanted, you know, we had an inspection and he asked for some things to be done. And I did know that there had been another offer that was submitted, and this, it was parents were selling the house and they had adult children, and one of their adult children they had accepted our offer. One's like, cancel that offer. Take the one with more money, cancel ours, take the one with more money. And the other sibling was like, no, we said we accepted it. It's fair and square. So when it came to my buyer, I had prepared my buyer. I said, you know, you're asking for things. And when we know that there's another offer, especially because I had already been through it when I was on the seller side. And he's like, I want to ask. So we asked for, which the form that you use is a conditional inspection release, where you say, we'll remove our inspection contingency provided that you do ABC, you know, these three things. And so we had sent that over, and I wasn't hearing from the other agent. So this is, I prepared my buyer. I said, listen, I think they said no. I think so. They responded to us and said no. And so then we, in the time frame, the 7 days to have the inspection, 3 days for the buyer to respond, 3 more days to come to a meeting of the minds. So we're in that last 3-day window, and I wasn't hearing from the other agent. And so I prepared my buyer. I said, listen, if midnight happens and they have not accepted our deal, our requests, then it's over. Like we've missed that timeline. They can now kill our contract. And so I had prepared him. I said, if they didn't fix these, do you still want the house? He said, yes. So I had a backup clean inspection release prepared, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And when I didn't hear from her, and I kept calling the other agent, she wasn't responding to me. So when it got to be like 11 o'clock at night, I just emailed the clean release over to her. And then the next day she called me up, and an important point of this story is, so anyway, she called me up the next day and she's like, I am so sorry. She goes, thank you for sending that clean release. My clients were telling me not to respond to you. And so what I had thought was happening really was happening. They were going to use that to get out of the deal so they could accept the other offer. And she felt bad that she wasn't calling me, but she had her fiduciary duty of obedience to her seller, or to her buyer, her seller. And so this is where this is, we're going to talk about number 4, but like, you can, if you don't like how the other agent's behaving, there could be several things going on. One, they could be acting in their fiduciary duty to their client, and it may be frustrating with you, but you don't know what's going on the other side. So complaining about people and other agents isn't the answer. It's all about working together. And this story is a good, it combines 2 elements. One of that, you want to prepare your clients of pitfalls that could happen before they happen and have a solution for it, which I had notified my client saying, I think this is happening. If you really want this house, we need to just remove the inspection contingency. And I wasn't mad at her. And when she came, you know, she was apologizing. She felt so bad that she was ignoring my phone calls. But I said, you know what? I get it. You're working for your client, and no worries here. You know, I understand. So I guess that's the point I'm trying to get across is we all want to work together, and just because what seems to be one way may not be what it really is, if that makes sense for everybody. So, you know, we talked about, preparing clients for possible issues and solutions, pricing. So for appraisal, we want to make sure that we price on the listing side, we price the home appropriately. And if we're writing an offer for our clients, that we do a CMA and make sure that they're paying an appropriate amount. Now with the market that we're in, with offers going higher than asking, a lot of times, you know, we've got houses here in Rochester that, you know, if they could be on the market for 150 and they go for like 200, because there's so many people competing for offers. You just want to make sure that you're not overpaying for a house. Your clients aren't overpaying a house, and having a good relationship with the co-broker. If you saw on my timeline, I have one of the things in there. I send them a card once we go under contract. And if I can click back to it really quick. This is where
Hey, Bev, I'm free for a couple minutes. You guys all good?
yeah, I'm not seeing my end screen share again. I think it's because
I can undo it for you.
can you?
Yep.
I think it's because my settings keep changing to end screen, and my other monitor is not on for some reason.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So going back to my checklist. So so here I have send thank you note to co-op agent. And if I go over here, so this is just a little, my buyers and I are so excited to be under contract with you and I put the address in there. We're looking forward to a smooth transaction. Call, text, or email me with questions and updates, and I'll do the same. So, you know, I start off the relationship with, you know, being cooperative and all that. So it's a smooth transaction is much easier when you are in good contact and good rapport with the other
So you
agent.
send that to on the seller side then, huh?
This is my buyer, so I send it to the seller.
Yeah. That's
And
nice.
on if I click here, oops, this is my seller checklist, which basically it's the same thing. My seller and I are excited to be under contract with you. Let's see. So the next one, so what tasks have deadlines and what are those deadlines? I kind of already went through this. Does anybody remember from what I said? What are some, and want to volunteer some tasks that have deadlines?
Contract acceptance.
Contract acceptance. Is that what we said? Contract acceptance?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep. So, well, the contract acceptance is when you're negotiating. Good faith deposit. I know in our Rochester contract, it's 2 days that the good faith deposit needs to be delivered to the listing brokerage.
Inspection.
Good. Do you remember what, again, these in Rochester, they're blanks that can be filled in. So sometimes they vary. But the standard that I use and that I talked about is 7 days for the inspection, 3 for the buyer to respond, and 3 days for a meeting of the minds on how to proceed on that.
In this market, are you still given 7 days?
I do. I mean, trying to think if I've written it. I do see 5 come in. Sometimes I see 5, 2, and 2.
Yeah.
2 is a little tough. 2 is a little tough because the inspector's got to get the report to you, and sometimes they're not giving it to you till the next day.
The attorney approval?
Yeah. You know, ours is now written. That's again, it's a fill-in section, but it's no less than 3 days.
Yeah.
We used to, before they changed that just in the last couple of years, we were putting in 1 day because we didn't want any other buyer to sneak in and get in there and have attorney disapprove it. But now I guess attorneys want to be able to take a day off once in a while too. So they get 3 days.
Mortgage commitment.
Good. I know I mentioned that would be typically written as 30 days, but you can, if you're going to try to pull it in to a shorter time frame, then you could pull that in a little bit too. Again, right now things aren't closing on time, even at 60 days. So you may pull in a contract date, but I don't know if it's really going to happen. I added offer expiration, which is a blank that we put in the purchase offer. And then closing date. So another thing to prepare your client ahead of time is the way our contract is written is the closing date is on or before the date that you put in there. But in reality, it's best to let your clients know that it's a target date, especially with, as I'm mentioning that all my deals right now are late. So letting them know it's a target date. I think in here, let's see. What do you think would happen if you miss a deadline?
The contract could become void.
Mm-hmm. Just, yeah, like I mentioned with the inspection, if I hadn't responded to that one by midnight, that could have been a reason for them to cancel the contract. On our contract cancellation form, it says one of the things is we didn't come to a meeting of the minds by the designated time frame. So that would be them grounds to cancel the contract. So sometimes, again, this is going to vary by region. Let's say if an attorney doesn't get their approval in 3 days, I may or may not, and we want to continue to buy. If I'm with a buyer, we want to continue to buy the house. My client wants to, and the seller wants to sell. I may not do an addendum, but if it is important that if you to make sure that your contract isn't void because of timelines, is you could drop an addendum that says buyer and seller agree that the inspection timeline is, and put the new date. I actually had one. I had to do one. I think last year we had to do that addendum because I was getting worried, and so I I was like, I don't want this to be a way to kill the deal. So you want to create the addendum to make sure everybody signs it and is in agreement. So question 4 is, how can you help manage other parties involved in the deal? I think we talked about some of this. Anybody want to add anything?
Again, communicate with everybody involved.
Yes.
Constant contact.
Have a good relationship, like you said, with the co-broker.
Yes. So I had written down, be nice and cooperative, have grace. Remember, each of you have your separate fiduciary duties to your clients. Don't assume the worst in the co-op agent. Take ownership of all managing the whole thing. So if they're not stepping up, you know, at least it's still running smoothly. I had an agent, I was in a deal with an agent who I assumed had a ton of experience. She was in a it seemed like she did a lot of business, and she did a lot of high-end business. And I don't remember what had happened, but I was, you know, in touch with them or in touch with her, and there was something that I was missing that I didn't have and I needed it. So I called her up and I asked her for it, and I don't even know what the situation was, but I had told her what I needed. And after we closed, I ran into her and she thanked me because she had never been properly trained. And whatever I had done is I had helped her with a document that she had never prepared, or she didn't know how to do it. And I didn't even think about it. Like, it didn't even register what was happening. I just knew I had to get everything done, and I was missing this. And if she didn't know what she was, you know, I just helped her. You know, I always come from contribution, and I come to help whoever it is. And it was really interesting to hear that, and that she had never been taught properly. And I assumed that she had, because of the business that she was doing, and she thanked me for it. So it's all about being nice, playing, you know, we're all in this together and we all want the same thing. Like what are good strategies in dealing with a vendor or another party that's slow to respond or doesn't meet deadlines? Again, I wrote, take ownership, be nice, ask if they need help. Another thing is having backup vendors. And this is even if, you know, I recommended lenders to people, and if they don't call, I need to give them a backup one. Or I have recommended, trying to think of another situation, you know, we become the resource to our clients. And again, we're talking about this a little bit ahead. We'll talk about it more, but having a vendor list is so important, because a lot of our agents are looking to us for, if we say, okay, now you got to get an attorney, you need to get a home inspector, you've got to get, and if something comes up on the inspection and they need to get their furnace fixed, and you may need to be able to recommend an HVAC person. And it's very important that we have more than one. I usually do 2 to 3 recommendations and let them choose in case there's a bad situation. It's not that we told them to use this one particular vendor. We give them a choice of several and just say, you know, we've worked with them before. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Let me just let's get back to our PowerPoint. What are you guys seeing right now? Are you seeing the co-broker relationship? Yeah, okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Yep.
Do you want to take a quick 5-minute break right now?
Yeah, I was just about to ask for that.
Did anyone have any questions before that, just with what we've talked about so far? No? Okay. We'll take a quick 5-minute break. I've got 10:50. We'll just get back together at 10:55. Sound good?
Yep.
Oops. Is everybody back?
Yes.
I see Kathy.
Yep, I'm here.
See Paige, you've got your voice on.
Yeah.
We'll wait. Is Colleen and Deborah back?
Yep.
Okay. So, oh, you wanted me to ask again, who's bought or sold a home? Who's bought or sold a home?
I have. Mm.
So, so do you remember what it felt like when you're waiting to close? Like, what did you want from your realtor?
Make sure it happened on time, and it wasn't their fault that it didn't. It was our buyers, lenders. It was ridiculous how long it took.
And was it frustrating?
Oh my gosh, it was so frustrating. We were supposed to move in and close before Christmas. And that was about the 18th of December. So we never really decorated or anything for Christmas. And then we never actually closed until the 11th of January.
Oh, wow.
So,
So you
so we
could-
kind of had to scramble.
So you couldn't move into your
Nope.
purchase because the people buying your home
Yep.
were late. It was their lender. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
frustrating.
it was weird because it's like nobody had really heard of this lender before, and it was a bank, so it wasn't a mortgage company. And they just kept dragging their feet and dragging their feet. It was ridiculous. We're like, are we ever going to get to move out of this place? So yeah, it was very frustrating.
But you knew it wasn't your
It wasn't no, my agent actually was my sister. She was the buyer's agent anyway. But yeah, she, and actually, I don't know if you knew who she was, but Kathy McWilliams.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she was our listing agent. So she was frustrated. My sister was frustrated. We were frustrated.
Mhm.
Then when we
You brought up a
finally
good
got
point.
to close, I was going to say, when we finally got to close, the buyers, they were absolutely ridiculous too. So it was all the way around. We were just happy to have it all done.
You brought up a really good point, and that was a lender that people didn't know of. So one thing as an agent you can do is, I always recommend that my buyers are using an agent that has local presence.
Yep.
And usually they'll take my advice. On occasion they won't. You can then also say, well, can you at least get pre-qualified from a local lender and have that lender on hand? So in case the online lender or the one that you've never heard of, if something falls through, you can hopefully get someone quickly up to speed.
Mhm.
And representing a seller, when you're reviewing offers, again, right now we're in a seller's market, so you very well may have several offers to be able to choose from. But one day we will go back to a buyer's market where you'll just get one offer. But that's one of the terms, one of the points, that when you're comparing offers is it a local lender? And if you're only dealing with one that's not, having them also, asking the buyer's agent to have them pre-qualified by a local lender as well.
Yeah, well, this was 4 years ago, so it was definitely not the seller's market that it is now.
Yeah. So-
Anyway, that's my experience.
So in this section, we talk about the KW app. In the previous classes, have you guys gone over the KW app much?
I haven't.
Not really.
Okay. I am not using it in its fullest. I know you can, the listings that people can get from it, you know, if they're a buyer, they can be on searches, but I just tend to use the MLS search for my clients anyways. So that's as far as that goes. The next step is having for you to create a vendor and utility list. Do you guys, have you guys familiar with the app Homekeeper?
Yes.
Yeah. So some of you, and Betsy, where do you work out of again?
I'm out of the Gateway office.
Oh, your Gateway. Okay. So Homekeeper is a app. I don't know if we have it, if it's because we're with Keller Williams or if it's because of us locally. But Homekeeper is an app that you can use where you can keep all your vendors, your attorneys, your electricians, your plumbers, your home inspectors, your accountants, and anyone that you want to keep in your vendor list. And it's very important that you have these vendor relationships because your clients will call you on occasion, especially if during the transaction, but even afterwards. And one of the best, I am so thrilled when a year after the closing, my clients call me up and say, hey, do you have an electrician? Or, hey, do you have an accountant? Like, I am so excited that they are keeping me in mind, that I am in their mind as their resource for other connections. So it's, to me, it's like a gift to me that they think of. I'm honored that they are thinking of me that way. Because if they're thinking of me as that resource, then they're going to be thinking of me as also the resource for real estate and be referring me to their friends and family and use me again. So to be able to be that for your clients is going to be so valuable in continued business and referrals. So it's a good idea to start compiling that list. Since a lot of you are new, we're kind of in a weird time right now and everybody's busy, but call up a bunch of home inspectors and, you know, either talk to them over the phone or meet with them in person and have them show you what their reports look like and have them show you, you know, ask the question, go, in this market, would you do a modified inspection hitting just the big items for my buyers who need to compete against other buyers who are waiving inspections? You know, I would think that in this business, because people are waiving inspections, that inspectors have extra time. So, you know, ask them that question and say, what would you charge for that? And, you know, how quickly are you, you know, able to book? I think sometimes home inspectors might be doing it part-time, so it's important to know what their availability is. And, you know, having HVAC people on your vendor list. Every time if a seller has not had their furnace cleaned and inspected in the last year, an inspector will tell the buyer that they should request for that to be done. So when I'm listing houses, I tell my clients, I'm like, before you put it on the market, let's just get this taken care of. And that we can actually show the receipt. And, you know, for my listings, I prepare a property book and I have all that documentation, because the more you can give peace of mind to a buyer, the more happy they will be and comfortable they'll be bringing an offer on your listing. So it's good to have all those vendors available in a list somewhere, whether it's on Homekeeper, a spreadsheet, somewhere on your phone, you know, something easy to get to them. So when your clients ask, you can make those referrals. just notes here from the book. Providing that vendor list allows you to provide multiple vendors for your clients to choose from. That makes it easy for them to get inspections, warranties, or anything else they need. Providing utility information for property where possible also helps the client's moving process. So on the final walkthrough, I have a sheet that actually has the phone numbers to our gas and electric company, the water authority, and that stuff. So when we do their meter reads, we can put it right down there and they can make the phone call pretty easily. And then it says you might even set a checklist for 10 to 15 days prior to closing to remind them to forward their mail, cancel their current utilities, and set up utilities at the new property. That's what I have in my clear to close email. And so the last part is plan for a closing gift. So have you guys, not all of you had closings yet. Have you thought about closing gifts or even doing them, or what have you thought of as far as that goes? Or haven't you?
We've bought and sold 3 houses. The most recent in 2006. I've never had a agent do any of these things.
So then wouldn't you stand out if you did?
Yeah, maybe.
Any other thoughts on this?
Well, a plug for my husband. He makes cutting boards and he's actually making pie boxes for my sister because she gives out pies when she closes.
So what's a pie box?
It's like when she makes a pie, he makes a box to put the pie in.
So like a wooden box?
Yeah, a wooden box. Just like the cutting boards are wooden, obviously, but well, not obviously, but they are. But yeah, he puts like whatever she wants on the top of the box, and then her information on the bottom, so she can write off the entire amount instead of just $25.
Okay. And who's your sister?
Debbie Hovenar.
Oh, I know Debbie.
Oh. Yeah,
There's
so that's
that.
what she's doing. I will definitely do that.
I sold shoes to her in the parking lot once.
That was you?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, she told me about that. That's a riot.
I like that. So yeah, that's neat. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts from Colleen or who else still on this call? Anybody else have thoughts on closing gifts?
I would say something personal. And do you put your logo on it somewhere too, just so they remember, like on the back of it, or?
So for me, it depends on what I'm giving. I have a standard gift, and I did bring, I'll show you a little bit what I do. And this answers your question directly. So I don't know if you've ever heard a spiel from Cutco, but are you familiar with Cutco knives?
No.
Cutco is a knife company that's been around at least since the 50s, maybe even earlier. I probably could look in here and see what it is. They're actually made in Olean, New York. So they're local and they have like a lifetime guarantee. So they're a high-end knife company, and they have a closing gift division. And what they do is they will, I don't know if you can see this.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that? Or is it reflecting too much?
Yeah, let me see.
Here, I think if I take off the, hold on.
Oh, there we go.
Can you see? So they do engrave it. Now, if you listen to the Cutco spiel, technically, all right, the IRS allows 25% or $25 is the maximum for gifts. most people do spend more than that. If you put your name on, it's all of a sudden marketing and it's 100% write off.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that.
Yeah.
He puts her information on the back or on the bottom.
So I do, my standard gift is I do give them a Cutco knife, and this knife, this probably costs, it's upwards of $70, this one. So I do go inexpensive on the rest of the gift. So I buy a $2 cutting board from TJ Maxx. And I get cheese, a bottle of wine, and like a Ghirardelli chocolate thing. So I just, and crackers. So when I give it to them, it's like a little celebratory snack type celebration snack. And then they have the knife to keep. I've seen the Cutco, you know, what their spiel, which I get is, you know, you use your, I have Cutco knives, and that knife I use almost, that's my favorite go-to knife. And so you're constantly your clients will be constantly reminding you, being reminded of you as they're in the kitchen. So I do like that closing gift. Some other things that I had a guy close recently. I had worked with him I showed him a lot of houses. And the final one, it was an estate and it didn't have all the smoke detectors in it. And they're supposed to when we close. I didn't want to bother with having the listing agent try to get it from the heirs of the like, actually, I think the house is the person handling the sale was the ex-wife of the seller who had passed. So I didn't want to be bothered with anyway. So I just got him a bunch of smoke detectors also in part of his closing gift. I had a seller from Texas who was back in Texas. So I shipped him Omaha steaks. So there's different things that people will do. I also have, I like to do crafts. So sometimes I'll add in a craft that I do when I go to the final walkthroughs. Like I said, I take a picture of them in front of their house with a Home Sweet Home rider. And I've sent them, I've included in that, maybe made little change of address cards with that picture on the front. I've done that as well. I'll show you something that I just came up with recently. Find it. Let's see. Because I wanted to be, let me find it first. I wanted to be cognizant of different people's preferences. So just to be fun, I created this sheet that I'm now using. So I had seen on Facebook, someone, like, they were talking about teacher gifts and they're like, oh, give them wine. And someone's like, well, what if they don't drink? So somebody had suggested giving the teacher one of these all about me things that teachers give their kids. And I was like, wait, I should do that for my clients. So I created this where I send it to them, and where they put their name in, my hobbies or ways I like to spend my free time. When I celebrate achieving my goals, my celebratory drink of choice is blank. Other ways I like to celebrate. My favorite foods, snack treats are this. Foods I can't eat, are allergic to, or don't like. The most important people in my life are these, here. My favorite restaurant, the holidays I celebrate or I don't celebrate holidays, and some other my favorite things. So, and then I wrote, all information on this form is to better get to know you so I can tailor my communications and kindness to match your interests. Because we know that, I don't want to send a Merry Christmas card to somebody who celebrates Hanukkah or doesn't celebrate holidays at all. I had a seller who recently who I knew didn't drink. So I sent this to him and he put in here apple cider or cider. So I got him a bottle of sparkling apple cider. And he also had said, actually his favorite foods was Chipotle and his favorite restaurant was Chipotle. And so I got him a gift card to Chipotle. So that ended up being my closing gift to him, was the champagne, and then the sparkling apple juice, and then the Chipotle gift card. So this now, I just started using this like a month ago. So it's helped me with a couple of my clients where I want to make sure that I can really tailor it to what they need. I don't want to send Omaha steaks to a vegetarian. So that was kind of the basis of this.
Do you set your gift price according to the price of the house, or?
Sometimes, but sometimes it could also, I might do a bigger gift if there was a lot of hassle in it also. Like the guy who I did the smoke detectors for, that was actually above and beyond me giving him a knife and a bottle of wine. Actually, I thought his favorite drink was gin. And so it's tough to buy, I can buy a $15 bottle of wine, but I think gin, anything that's good, is going to be up in the 20s. So I'm already spending $70 or so on a knife, and then, getting higher. His house wasn't as high as other ones, but we had gone through a lot together, showing him 45 homes, and I had written him 14 offers. Oh. So, and there was frustration and all that. So I wanted to, and it had nothing to do with me. Either he wasn't offering high enough, or it wasn't the right height. He had certain specific criteria, and we looked at a ton of houses together. And so adding in 4 smoke detectors probably bumped me over what I would have typically, spent. Okay. Yeah, and so it says here, you should consider setting a reminder a few days beforehand to arrange a closing gift so that you're not scrambling on closing date. I've stopped at liquor stores and grocery stores right on my way to closing before. I try to do it ahead of time. Obviously, if you're giving perishable items, you got to deal with. So there's a lot more tasks to keep track of in the transaction management process. Now, actually, you saw all my tasks because I showed you that one sheet. So setting up the custom to-do list for yourself and customizing the consumer guides will help make sure that you don't miss a step. I don't know if you guys, because we're doing this on Zoom, I don't know if you guys can be doing this while we're talking about it, or if I can just show you and you can take notes. But I'm going to get into Command now. And so if I remember, Command. It sounded like you guys, not a lot of you had a ton of experience with Command, right?
Just setting the contacts.
Okay. All right. So for your tasks, we're going to go to opportunities. So if you enter your contacts in, have you guys put them into opportunities?
Not yet.
No. Okay. So if you're working with a buyer or working with a seller, even if you are in the early process, I know someone had mentioned that you're, as far as sellers, I don't know who it was, had said that they're talking, going with meeting with sellers to just kind of talk about getting their house ready. So you want to at least put them into either the cultivate phase or really in the cultivate phase. So these are the phases. I'm saying this right? These are the phases. And then within each phase, there's a stage. So I'll just go into buyers. So these different stages are watch, nurture, if they're hot. So those are the three for that. And then once you've set an appointment with them, then they're in the appointment phase. And this is where you've scheduled the appointment, or you want to schedule it. It's been scheduled, it's been kept. And so you want to get them in here. And what's great about this is if you are up to date putting these in here, then you can start using these, the timelines. Like let's say you schedule, going from meeting a person to getting it to close, there's all these points in between, and knowing how long it takes to get from one point to the other, and your fallout ratio is going to help you create actual statistics of your business, so you can then plan, do business planning better. So it's good to have the actual times, dates in here. But we're going to go to under contract, and I'm going to pick this one buyer. So this buyer is at the financing stage in the phase of under contract. So if you want to edit the stage, I'm going to show you how to edit the stage. So right now, the stages that are in, you're going to have defaults that are in here. So the stages under contract is escrow. So you're active is when you're working with the client, and then you get their contract accepted. So all of a sudden we're in under contract. And how you move them is, let's see. We'll start with active. So let's say we're working with Phyllis. So as we, right now I'm showing her properties. If we start putting an offer in, she's going to go under negotiations. And it's just a matter of, it's pretty easy how you just slide them over. And then when her offer gets accepted, then you can just slide it up to under contract. And now all of a sudden we click on under contract, and there she is. Oop, where is she? And she's at the first stage of escrow. Now, what I did with that checklist that I showed you before, if I can quickly pull it up, just to show you quick. I added these stages here. So in escrow, this is what all has to happen. In inspections, this is what has to happen. In appraisal section, this all has to happen. And then in finance, this has to happen. And then clear to close, I have that. So I aligned this up, this schedule, this task list ended up, I aligned it up to work into command. And I'll show you how that works. So first I'm going to show you how to edit a stage. one thing I don't like about this is when it goes to, I'm going to do it under closed. Actually, so when you move things to close, it ends up archiving, and I want to be able to see what, I want to be able to see my transactions that have closed. So I'm going to edit a stage here. I'm going to put in a closed stage in my under contract because I don't want it to disappear. There may be another way to do it, but this will be a good just to show you. So if you want to add a stage to these, which you can, you just click edit stage. And these are the ones that are currently in there. And I'm going to add a stage that says closed. And this is the probability of it closing. I mean, we're really at 100%. If it's closed, it's closed. And I'm going to put this in position 6. So now I've just added a stage. You could put one anywhere in here. I'm trying to think of what a better one. I think these are pretty good. I don't know. I might have added one of these. I don't know. So I don't know if these are the defaults or if these are, because it's been a while since I've done this. But if yours don't look like this, these are the ones that I have, and it seems to work. So then I can now go back to my my buyers, and all these people, these have actually closed. Oop. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to move them here yet, just because then they disappear. And I kind of want to keep track of who's closed. So anyway, so that's how I showed you how to add a stage. So I've added, again, phase is up here. I don't think we can change the phases. Maybe we can, but these are the stages. And then within the stage, we have our tasks. So here's the tasks. And this came straight from my my checklist. So here are, go back to, it's easier to do it back into edit stage. He was under financing, right? So here's my financing. So when we're under financing, these are the different tasks I have in there.
Is this reading from your spreadsheet?
Yes. So if you go back to this, I'll click back on the spreadsheet. So I kept one out of here. Actually, I have it next to me. I'll just look at it. So from my spreadsheet under financing, I have mortgage commitment. So right now we're under, so this is the phase is under contract and the stage is financing. And then these are the tasks. And this is instead of going from paper spreadsheet or even an Excel spreadsheet and going into command and having this in here. So I have the send congrats on mortgage commitment. Confirm that they paid their insurance. I don't know why it's not showing.
How did you download your checklist to command?
I added each item just like this.
Okay.
So I think there was one that was on here. Actually, you know what? I'm just to make it simpler. I'm gonna do the clear to close stage. Okay. So this is get clear to close. Prepare the client closing gift. This is sending the clear to close milestone email and call. Schedule the 24-hour final walkthrough. Attend the 24 final walkthrough. and getting meter reads on there. And then I have a 10 closing. So one thing that I don't have in here, which I want to add, is make sure the closing is scheduled. So I'm just going to show you how you can just add these. You just add an item. And then save it. And then I'm going to move this up to in here. This is kind of in the order. You hear from the bank, okay, we're cleared to close. And then the attorneys, I make sure, you know, all the attorneys know that. Actually, that should be another step. Is telling the everybody that we got clear to close. Just in case the attorneys weren't notified. So we get clear to close, we notify the attorneys and the co-op agent. And again, this is on the buyer side. So we'd be telling the listing agent, get your closing gift paired, send the clear to close email. Actually, I probably move this up here, saying, congratulations, you're cleared to close. Here's the next steps. You'll be receiving it, you know, that's when you let them know. The attorneys are the ones that schedule the appointment, the closing appointment. So it's off you, because a lot of times they're like, well, this is they're telling you that this is the only day they get off or can get off, and that's when you have to remind them it's the attorneys that schedule it, because you've got the lender, the bank attorney, the lending attorney, the buyer's attorney, and the listing attorney that all have to coordinate that closing date. So that they need to be talking to their attorneys about that. When you know that the closing is scheduled, then you want to schedule the 24-hour walkthrough. You're calling the listing agent for that. Then you actually attend the 24-hour walkthrough, and then I have a 10 closing. And then you can save it. So that's just showing you how you can put these. Right now, you won't have any. I'm pretty sure that all those checklist items are blank until you put them in. The stages are, it was set up to have some default stages. I don't know if any of you guys can get on to look at your command right now, but I don't remember if if I just worked with the defaults or if I added in my own. But then all these checklist items, I would do. Now that I just created that new closed one, I could add here, because I do have an after close checklist, which is, if it was my listing, I would be updating the MLS with the closed data. I send another thank you to the co-op agent. Are we all Keller Williams agents on this call?
Yeah.
Is that everybody's KW?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So doing this can help you. My post close actually is can include a touch. It actually includes a touch system for trying to connect with the other agent and ultimately hopefully get them an appointment with my team leader. So I have sent a thank you note to the co-op agent, put the co-op agent in our database under as real, and tagging them as a real estate agent, invite them to lunch, invite them to a Keller Williams event. and I also have bought some book. Like I've also sent them a gift, like a Murray book or the One Thing book. So I have that on this as far as a touch system for the co-op agent. But other things that I have are, I'll show you. I brought this over to show you. Go back on full screen. Let's see. So this is something that in the beginning of, the first year I got my license, I heard about this company. It's called Client Follow-Up. It's actually called Personal Marketing. And what they do is for $25 after closing, I just have to email them the buyer's name and address. And if I took that picture of them in front of their house, I send a picture of them in their house. And what this company, for $25, this company will send them this page branded with you, and it'll send them return address labels with their new address. It'll also send them a postcard. And if you don't send a picture, you'll get they'll send something like this. If I send the picture of them in front of their house, they'll use that picture on this postcard. And it just says on the back, real estate is not just a business. It's a pleasure to help clients achieve their real estate dreams. True professionals work hard to become a lifetime resource for their clients. The referral of your family and friend is the highest compliment I can give. And again, this would be branded for, this is just their example, but this is branded with your information. And then over the next 5 years, 4 times a year, two times a year, they'll get a booklet in the mail that has just healthy living and might have a recipe, just articles on timely articles, and more postcards that might be like in the fall. It might say, here's ways to get your house ready for winter or spring cleaning or things like that. And what I love about it is, first of all, you just made money. So spending $25 isn't a big deal. And these are touches that it's like the best leverage. You can set it and forget it, and they're going to get touched 4 times a year. Plus, this is a fun. I remember, like, one of my clients, she's a millennial, and it was their first house. And when she got these, she's like, it was like the greatest thing. And she's like, I feel like a real adult now, because she had her own return address labels. But that's one of the things that I do. So that's on that post-close checklist is setting them up for this. If you're interested, it's the Personal Marketing Company. And sometimes they give specials where if you ever go to any of the real estate conventions, like in whether it's a New York State NYSAR one in Albany usually, or I think they're switching to they did have them in Turning Stone, or even if you want to go to a great one, Triple Play. Obviously they were canceled this year, but Triple Play is a tri-state, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York, and it's in Atlantic City. It's a great way to get continuing ed credit classes under your belt for a very inexpensive price. Now you are paying for hotel and transportation, but it's fun. But Personal Marketing is always there. Or if you go to Family Reunion, I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's the Keller Williams convention, but they'll give specials where you can buy, like if you pay $100, you'll get 5 credits for Personal Marketing. So it's only $20 for that. So I love that system. Anyways, also on my post-close is to send a feedback form, update Zillow with your sales, because you have to, if you want your sales to show up on Zillow, you want to make sure you have to put them in there. Ask for referrals, put them on a touch system, and then make sure you put their new address in command. And there's a house anniversary in command. There's a house anniversary smart plan. So every year, because you've got your closing date there, they'll send them an email. And then I also send out a card it also alerts me to send them out a card. And again, I like to do my own crafts, but I think you could probably buy these on Etsy. They're not, I just make little cute happy house anniversary cards that says wishing you another great another great year full of making memories and happy times in your home. Because it's about staying top of mind with your clients even after closing, to continue that relationship and get referrals. And then I have Facebook friend request them, things like that. So that's what I'll update my that new stage that I just added, the close, because I don't want that to disappear. And I'm going to keep it under in that section so it doesn't disappear. So I'll be filling that in with all those. All right. Any other questions about that in Command? Will you guys like start creating your tasks and adding them into Command?
It's great.
And moving all your the people that you're making sure that you've got all your people that you're talking to, not just in your contact section, but in the opportunities section.
Yeah.
Oops. Where's that? Oh, not there, here. And then you can see, like, if you're just beginning to work with them, you're going to put them in the cultivate section. And then once you've made your appointment with them, then they move into appointment. And if you've got people getting set up in the MLS, getting houses sent to them, you want to make sure that they're in your active section. Active is if you've already got the house listed. But if you're out there showing buyers, you want to make sure they're in the active section. The next activity they have for us is, who was on Monday? I think Chris said it was Monday's class. Where you went into the into Command and looked at the guide for the seller guides and buyer guides. Did anybody do that already? Anyone who's in Monday's class?
We had to leave early, so I think some of us missed that.
Okay, so I'm going to show you where that is. This is again in Command, and it's Guide Builder. Oh, it's under Consumer first. And then this is the Guide Builder. And there's two guides. The buyer, this is for, this would be in the app. So you can send this to people who have your app. I have not done a lot with this, so I'm just going to show you how to get to it. So this is the buyer guide, and you can click on it. And this is where it has, the reason this is in this section is because this is where it has sections for the different stages. And these can be edited as well. So you could add a step. These are pretty much, I'm trying to think of where I might consider adding a step. So start your search, get pre-approved. We're touring the homes, make an offer, contract accept, execute contract is when it's been accepted. You could ask or do, oops. I don't know where all these are coming up from. This could be homeowners insurance, because I don't think that was in there. And then you can find an image to put in there. Let's see. So this, you'd have to have an image that you want to drag in here from your files. Let's see. Where do I stock pictures? I'm just going to do this for I don't know. I'll just drag this in here. Oh, how about this one? Just click that. Just to show you. Does that look like a good homeowner's insurance picture? Oh, we need a subtitle. So the reason they purchased the first year of homeowners insurance is then in their mortgage payment, generally they'll be paying 1/12, and then the second year will be paid by their lender. So then this, I believe we should just be able to move it up to here. So there, that's how you can add a step into this buyer's guide that buyers can see if they have your app, and they can look at that. Oh, we already did have homeowner insurance here. That's what they had. So it already was in there. Is everybody familiar with the home warranty? Anybody want me to talk about home warranty?
Yes.
Sure.
Please.
Yep. Okay. So a home warranty is something that they can, so, you know, when you buy your house and then you own it for 10 days and all of a sudden the furnace goes, you're kind of like, okay, well, you can't go back on anyone because you had your due diligence to do an inspection. You had your opportunity to do all that. Now, if the seller knew that it was on, you know, they're supposed to disclose everything, that if they knew that it had a cracked heat exchanger or it was whatever, but it would be tough to get that, to blame the seller for that. So there's something called the home warranty that can be purchased by a buyer or a seller. And it's usually around $700. And then for each, if something went, and it covers the home for a year, and it's pretty comprehensive what it covers. But if the furnace went, stopped working, you could, for $100, have someone come out, you call the company, and they'll have a contractor come out and take a look at it, and they'll either fix it or replace it with a similar model for you, just for that service fee, which is like $100. Now for buyers, it could be a good thing if they don't, it can be peace of mind like any other warranty. We need to tell people about it. And there's actually a form that we have to have them sign that we've told them about it. It's on, if you're in Rochester, it's called the franchise addendum. You don't want to talk them into it, or you don't want to necessarily talk them out of them. It's their choice, because you don't want to be responsible if they regret their choice. But one thing that I will say is they don't get to pick their contractor. So if Uncle Jimmy is an HVAC guy, he's not going to be the one that would be able to use it. You're using the list that the home warranty company has on their contractor list. So, but I've had buyers buy it and are very happy, and that we're glad that they did. On the seller side, it's kind of interesting because the seller can buy it, and it covers this house while it's on the market, and it transfers to the buyer for a full year. So, you know, if a seller's out of town and if they've already moved, it's a great peace of mind to know that if something breaks, they don't even have to deal with it. And it can be a selling point if your furnace is, I'm just using the furnace as an example. If it's an older furnace and you're worried that the person's getting an inspection and they are going to try to get money off because the furnace is old, you can say, well, we're giving you a home warranty. So you should be good to go for the first year. And I think with the tendency of what's going on now where people are waiving the inspection, a good peace of mind thing is to suggest your buyers, if they're going to waive inspection, is to buy a home warranty. So at least they've got peace of mind that if they learn something after they've closed on the house, that something wasn't in perfect working order, they can get it fixed with using the home warranty. So something that we are supposed to share with our clients, that it's an option for them to purchase. So I just thought I'd add that in there. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint. And we're almost running out of time. So we used command. This was, you know, we practiced, or I showed you how to add stages, and then also adding the tasks. And we went through the consumer guide. Okay. So these are ahas to achievement. So how has your thinking changed with regard to what we've learned today? Anybody want to share?
I love the checklist. I didn't realize it was that involved, I guess. And just having yours would be great if you can send it to us.
Okay.
So that we can get to command.
Can I give you my phone number?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the best way to do this, and send me your text me your email.
Okay.
That way I'll remember to do it. My phone number is 585-944-5704.
Thank you.
Chris, are you freaking out that I'm on slide 15 of 27?
No, I just thought I'd pop in and see how you were doing.
I kind of got ahead of myself on some, because I was showing checklists that were so comprehensive that I kind of got ahead of the order of things. And again, this is my first time teaching this, not the curriculum, but in this format. So
yeah, and you know what? That's totally fine. Because if you like split up your checklist, it sounds like everybody loved your checklist.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty comprehensive. So
it just wouldn't make sense.
But we'll wrap up with this. A lot of the rest of the pages are doing scripts. So I'll just say everyone should be practicing their scripts every day, and you should have that time blocked on your calendar. And you've probably heard this in other ones about the 10-4, the daily 10-4. Do you guys hear about that?
Mm-hmm.
You want to add 10 contacts to your database, have 10 conversations a day, and then send handwritten notes to those same 10 people, and then preview 10 homes in a week. And did somebody show you where you could use the online tool for that? I think if you just go www. You still at daily 10-4, does that still work?
You know, I'm not totally sure. The tracker?
Yeah, there's a tracker that if you text, I'll shoot it to you, and if you text me your email address for the checklist, I'll send you that link. And then role playing. You know, I don't know if you guys have gotten to get to know each other during Ignite, but if you guys could, you know, find a partner to role play. We didn't even get to role play because we went into a lot of other stuff with detail. They talk about the do not call list. So first of all, you want to make sure you're not calling anybody on the do not call list, which there's the registry, but Cuomo just extended the do not call list or, you know, with COVID, there's been a moratorium, no more calling people for anyways. And they just extended it. It must have ended December 1st, because then I think he just extended it. I don't know to what date. Chris, did you see that email?
I did.
I
Yeah.
don't remember. It's going to be at least throughout the end of the year. So
Yeah.
you shouldn't be
Yep.
doing cold calling. You can call the people that you know and love, but no one that you don't know yet. And then, yeah, using your scripts.
Can I ask what the logic behind no cold calls is?
Yeah, good question.
I don't mind it. When I get them from somewhere out of state, I remind them, you're going to start getting a lot of cold calls being in real estate from people who want to sell you stuff. I think the idea is that we're in a pandemic, and for the most part, a lot of times cold calls are a bother, and we don't want to. And so I think they're saying, people are just trying to, you know, some people are out of jobs, or, you know, their lifestyle has changed such that that's one thing that we don't have, that people shouldn't have to be bothered with, I would guess is the, what
Okay.
the thought is. Do you disagree? You think we should still be able to do cold calls?
I do.
Kathy's used to cold calling people. I have never cold called anybody in my life, and so I'm fine with it.
So Kathy, are you like, would you be cold calling for real estate?
Yep.
And where would you get your people from?
Well, I used to be able to get them from Zillow, but now they took the phone numbers out for people trying to sell. Because they used to always put that in. The owner's number was in there, and then you could just call from there.
So
I also get the Sizwell hot sheet from my my ex-boss.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
guess.
I would definitely have been calling.
Well, you should still be able to call, I would think, and if I'm wrong, Chris, you can let me know, but like if it's a for sale by owner, you could say I mean, you don't want to outright lie, but you want to see what's on the market, and their house is on the market. You could say, you know, I've got lots of buyers. I need to double check and see if this fits. You know, the information I am seeing on Zillow isn't, you know, I need more information. I mean,
yeah,
if their house is on the market, it's not like they're not.
So what it very specifically says is if you have a buyer, you are allowed to call them.
Yeah. Yeah. But you have to, if like it came back on you, you'd have to prove you had that buyer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
why I'm hesitant to do it.
Yeah. We'll find a buyer that wants to look in the location of the place you want to call.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything that you want me to go into more detail about? Is there anything that you really liked? Is there anything that you didn't like? I'm sorry that I had some technical issues. And thank you for being my first class in this new setup.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Very much.
Still a little bit overwhelmed, but I really do appreciate these Zoom calls and getting to know people and being able to ask questions.
One other little thing, and this is just like, the successful agents out there are ones that are really loving on their clients and building a you know, this is a great time, and this can speak to Kathy, is to be going to your sphere and making really good connections with your sphere, because they're going to be the best. They're the success rate of having someone, you know, giving you a lead versus someone you don't know. You know, it's like cold calls versus, you know, warm leads versus cold leads. You already have your warm people. So you don't, you know, a lot of people have built a great successful business just on their own sphere. And little things that you can do. I brought this just because this is, well, here's a few things that I grabbed that for ideas of things you can do to touch your sphere. One thing that I don't know if they're selling these anymore, but I had, let me stop the screen share again. At the Dollar Tree, I used to be, I think they don't have them anymore, but they had these cute little notes. So whenever I'm out and I find something inexpensive, I'm buying it. And this, because their houses, they work. So these are the note cards that I use to whether I'm send a note to the co-op agent or sending even a note after, you know, we got into email, and I do have my emails on, you know, congratulations on getting your house accepted. You can, any way you can love on your clients works. Like you could send them a handwritten note with that or send them a gift. One thing I make sure is I call them that we've reached a milestone. You know, I hesitate to say congratulations too soon because of all the things that all the areas that a contract could fall apart. So I say, we crossed this milestone. The next milestone is this. So you don't want, they don't want to, you know, pop in the champagne bottle just because their offer got accepted. So, you know, a lot of people do the calendars just to send that out with their Christmas cards. I haven't been doing them in a while, but another thing that I bought sometimes I'll bring these to listing appointments, but if I do it in the contract to close process, these 2 books are good if they have kids. This is the Berenstein Bears Moving Day is really cute, and it's like $3. And then for older kids, you know, for a little bit older kids, there's this book. And anything you do to touch them, just like I mentioned on the, you know, I give them an inspection gift. It's just sealing the relationship and building rapport in different ways. And if I don't know where you are if you've read the MREA book, but in the database section, you know, it's talking about the different touch systems, the 33 touch, the 8x8, and all those to stay in contact with your clients during the process and after the process.
Mhm.
So does those sound familiar to you?
Yep.
33 touch, okay. So, all right, any other questions?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'll look for your texts and I'll send you the checklist, and I can send you, I don't know if you want the that timeline sheet that I also have.
Be great. Great.
And then I want to know that all of you have put the checklist into your command tasks, okay?
And Bev, I did notice the majority, especially of the ones, the agents that had leave, they all gave you their email address because I know they all want that checklist.
Oh,
So they
okay.
didn't hear you say call or text you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm sorry. So they did what?
They
gave
put
me
it in the chat.
in the chat. Okay, I'll look at the chat before I sign off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Have a
Bye.
good day.
You.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. I feel like I did. Oh, this is fun. I'll talk to you later. Oh, I'll talk to you offline, Chris. But I'm just writing down the emails that were in the chat.
So I can send you the chat information.
Okay. That's better. Okay, that sounds good. All right. Thanks. Are you done with your other meeting?
So they're on lunch break.
Oh, okay.